Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Since the beginning, my most requested video is a what's in the bag. So today we came out to the woods to spend some time with our good friend Mando, and I'm gonna take a second and go through my bag. But first, guys, please, if you're new to the channel, I do not ask for this often, but if you could please hit the like and subscribe button, it would mean the world to me. Now let's get started. All right, guys, and to start things off, we are going to go with my throwing putters. And starting off with my only understable putter, my Proton Plastic Envy. If you guys watch my channel, you know how often I throw this thing. Anything dead straight or a slight anhyzer shot in the woods or in an open fairway at around 260 feet and under, my go-to will always be this Envy. Next up is the newest addition to my bag, but by no means a new disc, my PFN Champion Rhino. This is my stable putter. I don't throw it off the tee too often, but any kind of upshot that I just need a slight right to left, slight hyzer, even to a pretty big hyzer, I will always go to the Champion Rhino. Rhinos are great discs because they don't go far. They like to get to the ground fast. This is my go-to if I'm scared to go deep or if there's hazards anywhere around or behind the basket. Another workhorse in my bag is the RPM Kia. I absolutely love this thing. It is similar to a Toro, but it is smaller in diameter, and in my opinion, it is a little beefier. I use this disc all the time. Anything off the tee, 260 and under, that still needs the stability of like a mid-range or a driver, this is my go-to. I love it for approach shots. If I ever need to force something over to the right, but it needs to come back left, it is always going to be the RPM Kia. I absolutely love this thing. Now moving on to the mid-ranges. We are starting off with an absolute classic, the Discraft Breeze. I believe these were discontinued in 2007. I do worry a bit throwing this because they are very hard to replace and I don't have a backup. So if any of you out there have a Discraft Breeze laying around, I'd love to check it out. But this is my only understable mid-range. This thing is absolute butter, silky smooth shot. It'll flip up good. It'll hold a Annie for a long time. Any dead straight shot that's out of the range of the Envy, the Breeze is the absolute go-to. Next up, you guys know it, the Lazut Hex. This disc very quickly became a workhorse in my bag. I'll be honest, I do have a love-hate relationship for this thing. I feel like it broke in a lot quicker than I wanted it to, but anything up to about 325 feet, if I throw it on a slight hyzer, it will flip up and hold straight the whole way. I can use it for big turnover shots, although I don't do that very often. This disc is just, if I could pick one disc to play around with, it would probably be the Lazut Hex. If you guys haven't checked one out, I would highly, highly recommend it. Next up we have is the RPM Kotoku. This disc is fairly new to the bag. I do have a good amount of throws on it now. I have a good friend of mine who is a big RPM fan. He recommended this disc because he knows my throw style. I like overstable discs, and right away it found a spot. It kind of balances on the fringe. The only time I really use this disc is if I'm running something. If I'm within 150 to 200 feet and I'm running something, playing doubles, or I really need a clutch birdie or a clutch eagle, the Kotoku is my absolute run it disc. It can handle any amount of power you put on it and you don't have to worry about it turning over. And last but not least, we have the absolute meat hook of the mid-range. This is a dynamic disc Justice. Pretty much the only thing you'll see me use this for is sidearm flick approach shots. It's so overstable, you can throw it on almost any angle and you know it's gonna come back and crash to the right. I don't throw this backhand hardly ever, but this is an absolute must-have in the bag. And up next, we have the Fairway Drivers. We are starting off with my ultra beat-in PFN Ken Climo T-Bird. I don't throw this disc too often. Basically just dead straight tunnel shots around 300 feet. I throw it so light, it will flip up, hold a straight line. This disc is kind of on the fringe in my bag, but when I need it, I need it. So for now, it's gonna stay in. And next up, if you guys watch the channel, we have the absolute backbone, the Star Valkyrie. This is a PFN Star Valkyrie. It's very old, and this thing can pretty much do anything I want other than a giant hyzer. Any long flip up, S-shot, anything in the woods, anywhere from 300 to 360, it's always the Star Valkyrie. Any new course in the woods, you might see me throw this every hole. Guys, if you don't have a Star Valkyrie and if you are experienced or a beginner player, Valkyries are just great. It's one of the few discs, in my opinion, that you can put in your bag on day one, like me, and you can have it for as long as you play disc golf. Next up, we have the classic Nate Sexton Firebird. If you play disc golf, you've probably heard of these or thrown them, and guys, they do live up to the reputation. Sadly, a little bit ago, I lost my original Firebird that I had. It was beaten perfectly, but a friend did give this one to me. It's the same year. It flies similar, but obviously it does still give me some trouble until we can get it beat back in. But the Firebird is always safe. It's always reliable. It's kind of a perfect disc, I'm not gonna lie. Next up, we're getting into the meat hooks. This is a Drew Gibson Scepter. This disc is not super common. I do have one backup. The Scepter is a pretty common disc, but not his Tour Series stamp. I think they're a little bit more overstable, and I absolutely love this thing. I don't throw it too often, but if I need like 300 feet on an absolute meat hook, something to throw as hard as I can and not worry about it turning over, and something that's never gonna flip up and go too far, is the Drew Gibson Scepter. I also do throw this for sidearms occasionally, but this is one of my favorite discs, and this one has seen better days. And last but not least, we have the Discmania Splice. This thing is basically a baby tilt. I use this for absolute meat hook lefts, skip shots, sidearm, really sharp sidearm shots. This is a nice disc to have in the bag, although if you are a beginner or somebody with a weaker arm, I would never ever buy a Splice. But for me, I do love it. When I need it, I need it. And making our way to the big dogs, we have our distance drivers. And first up, we have our beautiful PFN Champion Orc. This is newer to the bag. I have had it for a while though. If you throw it on a pretty big hyzer, you can get a beautiful flip up, and once it flips up, it zooms. I believe this is a 9 or 10 speed. If I put it more flat or on a slight hyzer, it will flip up, give me a beautiful right turn, but it will always finish left. This is a very good disc. I think this is gonna stay in the bag a long time. Next up, we have our Proto Star Corvette. This disc absolutely bombs. I don't throw it too often. If I'm in a wide open field with all the room in the world, the Corvette's an absolute go-to. If I need something to flip up and hold an Annie for 380 feet, this is probably the only disc in my bag that can do it. It does get me in trouble a lot, so I really limit how often I throw it. But the Corvette, guys, it's a really fun disc. Me and all my buddies have one. It makes its way in and out of the bag depending how frustrated we are. Next up, I would say this is probably the backbone of the distance drivers. We have a Garrett Gurthie Halo Wraith. This thing is beat in nice. I can control this disc more than any of my other drivers. If I throw it on a big hyzer, it will flip up and it bombs. If I need something just reliable, if I'm in an uncomfortable situation, I just need 300 feet straight and drop, I'll pull the Wraith out. If I need to push something to like 380, 390, I will turn to the Wraith a lot if I just need the confidence. These are great discs. They do require a decent arm to throw, but I would highly recommend checking out one of these. Next, we have the Gstar Destroyer. This disc is on the fringe. When I first got it, I just crushed this thing. You can trust it. It won't turn over. For me, it'll flip up perfectly. And I mean, I can pretty consistently get about 400 feet with this thing. I can't do much big right to lefts or anything like that, but I do like it. I more of just like the feel of the plastic, to be honest. So we'll see how long it hangs out in the bag, but it's a good disc. I'd recommend it. Next is the Proto Firestorm. I've had one of these in my bag pretty much since I started playing. This one is by far the most aggressive and a most overstable one that I've had. I do love it though. It bombs. I throw it quite a bit. I'm probably going to throw it more as I play more, but if you can get your hands on one of these, they're nice. I can probably get a good 400 with it. Very stable, very reliable, and it usually can get the job done for me. And finally, the absolute meat hook, the Big Germ Halo Boss. I think everyone needs a driver in their bag that is just ridiculously overstable. If I have a lot of adrenaline or if I'm hyped up, hole one at a tournament or a lot of pressure on the line, this is what I turn to, because no matter how hyped up I am, no matter how hard I throw it, this thing is not going to overturn. But if you're gonna throw it as hard as you can. This thing will max out probably 350 on a hyzer. It's not gonna bomb, guys. Like, this thing is not gonna bomb, but I tell you, if you throw it straight, it'll crash left, even in a tornado. I love this thing. I will use this for giant sidearm shots as well, but it's a good disc. This will never leave the bag. And finishing with my 2 gadget discs, of course, you guys love it, the Waka Waka. This is an RPM disc, very flippy mid-range. I will only throw this for big turnover shots, big arcing shots. This thing is gonna crash right and it will never crash left. It's a really fun disc. I prefer it in the baseline plastic. So if you guys want something fun to try, get yourself a Waka Waka. And next we have our beautiful factory dyed Pro Destroyer. This is my Tomahawk and Thumber disc. It's very beat in, it's very gummy. This was a gift to me from a friend. This will never leave the bag. I'm a big fan of Tomahawks, big fan of Thumbers, and this just fits the mold perfectly. And finishing off, probably my most asked about disc are my putters. These are Yukon hammers. I love these things, but guys, I would not recommend them to anybody, really. They are very overstable. I just love them for the feel. They are a very shallow rim. I hate the feel of like AVRs, the big domey putters. I can't stand it. I don't know why, but it took me a long time to find one with the rim that I prefer, and I go with the Yukon hammer. It's almost kind of a joke in my group that I actually putt with these things, and if you throw them off the tee and hit one tree, they're gonna warp. Like, they don't last long, but they are cheap, and I absolutely love them. My putting game has improved drastically. I'm not gonna say it's because of the hammers, but guys, it's all about comfortability, and for comfortability, the hammers take the cake.